Here we go. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the June 20th, 2024 meeting of the Mount Juliet Municipal and Regional Planning Commission meeting. Thank you all for having a full house and everybody here tonight. Always welcome and blessed to see folks in attendance. As we get started tonight, seeing a full room and seeing the commissioners present, I do like to read and explain to folks what a quorum is. So quorum is the presence of 5 members of the commission shall constitute a quorum for the transaction of business. The chairperson may at his or her discretion wait up to 30 minutes after the scheduled meeting time for a quorum to be present. In the event that a member is required to leave a meeting prior to adjournment and the departure causes a loss of quorum, no further official action may be taken until a quorum is restored other than an adjournment. A majority vote of those commissioners present, and in no case less than 4 affirmative votes, shall be required to decide any item of business requiring action by the commission. So I'd like to announce that, and everybody welcome. If this is your first meeting, welcome. If it's your frequent flyer, then welcome again. With that being said, we will open up our meeting tonight by setting our agenda. I do have one note on this, just in case anyone is in attendance for this item. Was told by staff the courtyards at McFarland was deferred prior to the meeting and therefore is not on our agenda tonight. So I wanted to make note of that. Also, as we're setting our agenda, want to kind of initially explain an item that we have here. We have an item on our agenda tonight known as item 10A, which is simply a discussion item. Discussion items mean that this board cannot take any action, cannot do anything, cannot change anything, cannot move anything, vice versa. So as a discussion item, if you're here to discuss that item on the agenda in regards to the Whispering Pines, you're talking to 7 of us that can do nothing at all about that item. And so any comments reserved for that were prior to this body giving it a negative recommendation. And that's where this body stood when it was presented before it. This body is not taking any action on it, nor can it at this point. That action is taken at the Board of Commissioners and not at Planning Commission. Simply here is a discussion and discussion only. Any discussion that we have really has no bearing upon the approval, denial, or acceptance of that project. So I wanted to explain that as well. With that being said, any other changes, amendments, adjustments? With that being said,
you can, I think we can
Yeah.
strike item 10.
is that a motion to remove 10 from the agenda? Any objection to that? We're going to remove the discussion item known as item 10A from our agenda tonight. That is item 10A is known as discuss the Whispering Meadows project located at 0 Ritter Drive. It has been removed from our agenda tonight. Any other changes, amendments, adjustments? Seeing none, we will set our agenda as stated. Next item up will be our staff reports. Begin with our city planner.
I don't have anything new to report tonight. Thank
Planning
you.
coordinator, Ms. Johnson, anything?
No, sir. Thank you.
Very well. And we'll move on to Public Works.
I'm filling in for Shane tonight, and he is proud to report that the Green Hills roundabout is complete.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. For those that don't know, I actually spoke to Shane prior to our meeting coming up. For those that don't also know, Shane puts in a lot of time for the city. We also have Shorty here in support should we need anything from him. He's having a family night tonight. So when he called and expressed that to me, I said, there's nothing more important in your life ever than family. And he's actually supporting his son in an opening baseball tournament. So we wish him luck and family enjoyment as we go into tonight. So good luck, guys. At this time, we will call for citizen comments. The public is welcome and encouraged to make public comment about any item on our agenda. Any item on our agenda. There will be 2 opportunities for comments. You may speak now, or you may speak when the item is presented to the Planning Commission. We do ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. Anyone that wishes to address the Planning Commission is asked to come forward. Name and address for the record, please.
CSDG 2305 Klein Avenue, Nashville. Good evening. I'd like to respectfully request a deferral for item 7A, the review of the site plan for Tim Hortons located at 10576 Lebanon Road, please. That's it.
Very well.
Thank you.
Thank you. So when that item comes up, for those that don't know, this body and the Board of Commissioners amended an ordinance that any item that is deferred, once it's placed on the agenda, the item has got to be deferred at the Planning Commission meeting itself. And item 7A was just deferred off of our agenda. Item 7A to be read for public record is to review the site plan for Tim Hortons located at 10576 Lebanon Road. Name and address for the record.
Stephanie Beamer, 513 Montrose Drive, Nicholasville subdivision. I hate to tell you all, good evening. 26 years engineering construction experience. I have serious concerns about Elliott's Reserve. Besides the infrastructure improvements that need to be made on the state roads, including Lebanon Road with the 400 homes at Nonaville and Yorkshire Estates coming in, and now the villages at Green Hill. We have concerns about the state roads and the capacity that it has now. If you've driven there, coming out of your own house, you can't get out onto the road as it is. And adding more homes and retail will actually cause more issues. TDOT does not have the Lebanon Road projects in their 10-year plan right now. The closest to the neighborhood is the widening of Mount Juliet Road, which is not set till 2032. The traffic that's cutting through currently through our neighborhood due to the increased houses cutting through and avoiding the traffic coming through our neighborhood, the speeding, it's more stress on the police in the neighborhood. And besides that, there's the engineering concerns that we have. We've already had drainage issues that were a concern of ours because of improper site development. Many of us have spent thousands of dollars to put French drains in our backyards because of serious flooding. These homes would be actually on the hill, and they would be looking into our homes in our backyards, and we have serious concerns about that. In addition to the seismic conditions that are blasting, because there is rock back there, we have neighbors that have put in pools, and that will take in and do some serious issues to seismic conditions of our neighborhood and our structures. You know, we want to know what kind of relief we will get from the damages caused by the rock blasting in the building in the back there. Besides that, there's environmental concern. There could be the possibility of the gray bat and Indiana bat and long-eared bats that are endangered species in this area, in addition to several flora that is also endangered in this area. Our privacy, our safety, and our quality of life is being taken away from us with this development. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Eric Fisher. I live at 435 Whitley Way, also in the Nicholsville community. My house backs directly up to the current land that's under proposal for Elliott's Reserve. I have a few concerns. I know she just mentioned a lot of the concerns for the community. A few other items that I wanted to discuss. So there is an existing tree line for most of the houses that back up to the land. A lot of the people are concerned that this tree line is going to be removed during this development, which would remove all the privacy that they have. My house, unfortunately, does not have a tree line. There was a new landscape buffer that was planted when we moved in. Nothing's more than like probably 5 feet tall. So I would see everything that's back there. So I wanted to understand what are the landscape buffer requirements for this new application. When we moved in, I was told that they were going to be, or when that land sold, it would be required to have a 20-foot landscape buffer on their end as well. So I just want to make sure that that is accounted for. Wanted to understand what the setbacks for the building and construction will be from the property line. So just understand how close those townhomes that are proposed back there will be to the property line and to our property as well. And then the last item is fences. So currently, we are not allowed to put fences to our property line. We have to have it on the I guess the side closest to our house, on the side of the landscape buffer that's closest to our house. So that's 20 feet of our yard that we cannot use currently. And when I talked to the city about this, it was due to the existing landowners, which are currently living at the property that is proposed for Elliott's Reserve. So I'd like to understand that if this project were to go through, are we now allowed to extend our fences to the property line to allow us to have some privacy and still have that space in our yard as well? So those are the topics I had. Thank you.
Good stuff. Are you okay if we address those comments when it comes before us? I
Sure.
took some notes on that.
Yep.
Because you get only 2 opportunities to speak. So since we got it now, since you spoke now instead of when that is presented to the planning commission, where you
Okay.
won't have another opportunity, is it okay if we address those then?
Yeah, that's fine.
Perfect.
Thank
Thank you, Eric.
Mhm.
Any additional citizen comments at this time?
Hello, my name is Trisha Farmer. I live at 8015 Ritter Drive, and though I am impacted by the Whispering Meadows development, I'm unable to be here on Monday, and I wanted to see if it would be okay if I could share a comment.
It is not. We're not hearing, that item is not on our agenda tonight. And we're only taking comments on our agenda.
Okay, well, thank you for your negative recommendation last time.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
Thank you. Any additional citizen comments? All right, seeing none at this time, move forward with our next item up on our agenda, which will be our minutes approval. Item 5A, approve the minutes from the May 16th, 2024 Planning Commission meeting. Any changes, amendments, typos, adjustments? Looking for a motion in regards to this item on our agenda.
I'll make a motion.
It's a motion. In a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? So approved. Next item up on our agenda falls underneath our consent agenda. We'll begin with item 6A, development letter of credit number 1269 for Silver Springs Phase 5 in the amount of $96,857.56 can be released. Item 6B, which is a recommendation item back to the Board of Commissioners, is to review the rezone request from RS40 to RS30 for the Smiley property located at 815 John Wright Road. Item 6C is a recommendation item back to the Board of Commissioners to review the City of Mount Juliet urban growth boundary future land use amendment map. Staff comments. John, anything for planning?
That's all of it. No, we just recommend approval with all the conditions in the staff report.
Very well, thank you. Anything from Public Works?
No.
Very well. Questions or comments from the commission? I got one minor, 6B, the recommendation item on the Smiley property. Didn't note a purpose. What's the purpose of that?
That was brought in, just three separate lots he wants to subdivide it into, and they got enough space there to get the 30,000 minimum of RS30. The land use calls for medium density there, so it sure plays out. It'll just be 3 on that particular, it's just 3 roughly equally sized lots is what they're going to carve it into
Very well, thank you.
for single family homes.
I guess one more while you're up there. This one is more on 6C. One of the notes on there was the northern portion of Cedar Creek Yacht Club, the Corps of Engineers land right there. North of Cedar Creek Yacht Club is the boathouse, which is also a public entity. So are we going all the way up to the boat launch ramp right there?
I think so. Let me
Because
look.
no common ownership between the boathouse and the Cedar Creek
No.
Yacht Club. So we're going to stop it, I guess, just kind of where that boundary would be.
Yes. I gotta take a look at the map again. It's been a minute since I looked at it because we were gonna do it last month, but it was public notification kind of slowed it down. Might be kind of hard to tell on here. Looks like on this, it's all south of that.
Boathouse.
Yeah. Doesn't that look like?
Mhm.
So there's one little parcel there.
Okay.
I wish I knew more about the UGB. I wasn't here for all that discussion on why they took that in, but it doesn't even get a land use designation because it's core property.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, now it's in our UGB. But I couldn't answer that because I don't know why they
No.
went that route. The rest of those, though, the rest of these designations, we just kind of took what was surrounding and lumped them in with that so that they match.
I was actually kind of hoping that it went up to cover the boathouse too. Should that use ever change or?
Yeah, it doesn't look like it does.
Okay. Perfect. Questions, comments from the commission? I am looking, well, let me call for citizen comments. Any citizens wishing to make comment about any item on the consent agenda is welcome and encouraged to do so. Please come to the microphone and name and address for the record. Seeing no citizen comments at this time, looking for a motion in regards to these items on the agenda. It's a motion. A second. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? So approved. Once again, the next item up that was supposed to be on our agenda was deferred. Item 7A, review the site plan for Tim Hortons located at 10576 Lebanon Road was deferred. Anyone wishing to be here for that, it would be a 30-day deferral, so it would be on our July Planning Commission agenda. Next item up on our agenda is a recommendation item back for the Board of Commissioners. It is to review the roadway and right-of-way annexation, including plan of services for South Green Hill Road. Guess, is this more Public Works?
Yes. So the reasoning for this annexation request is essentially the difference between our standards for roads and the county road. There was a development that came in, 18-unit subdivision, sidewalk along their frontage. If that's not annexed, that's up to the Wilson County Road Commission, and they will be required to add a left turn lane that is not warranted by engineering standards, and they will not be allowed to have sidewalk within the public right-of-way. While if we do annex it, it can be the more condensed cross-section with proper sidewalks that are maintained by the city within the public right-of-way.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the commission? I'll make one quick comment on that. When we do annex it, I'll give you guys a shout. They got their sign right in the right of way, and you can't see the incoming traffic as you turn onto Virginia Hill Drive because their advertisement sign is blocking your sight line. I mean, no fault to them, but I guess in 30 days, we'll see if we can help that a little bit. All right. This time, call for citizen comments regards to this item on the agenda. Any citizens wishing to make comment are welcome and encouraged to do so. Name and address for the record. See no citizen comments at this time. Looking for a recommendation regards this item on our agenda. I'll make a positive recommendation. That's a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? Is a positive recommendation. Next item up on our agenda falls underneath the land use plan amendment. It is a recommendation item back to the Board of Commissioners. Item 9A is to review the preliminary master development plan, planned unit development, including a rezone from CTC to CNS PUD for the gas station convenience store located at 2190 North Mount Juliet Road. John?
Sure thing. This, you might remember this from last month where I believe it was deferred. Redevelopment of 2190, that convenience store over there. I'll just highlight what they've changed since the last time this was submitted, which was, like a month ago. First and foremost, before it was, they wanted 3 fuel pumps. They've reduced that to 2. So the canopy's smaller, and that waiver that they're requesting for the encroachment of the canopy into the front setback is now less because there's less pumps, or it's smaller. So in lieu of a 20-foot encroachment waiver that they were asking for, now I believe it's down to 3 feet. They're going to be encroaching. So 2 pumps is what they want to do. The convenience store itself, the building, is the same size as the last set of plans you looked at, the 3,604 square feet, I think it was. that still looks the same. Nothing really has changed there. Pardon me. The other big change here is on the north side of the property next to the railroad tracks there. I don't know if you recall the last iteration of the plan had some parking spaces along the adjacent to the building and the sidewalk up there. And they've eliminated those. There's just a dumpster enclosure back there now. But removing those parking spaces, they were already short substantially. So they're even further short on parking now, and that's one of the waivers they're asking for here, which is 11 spaces, which is in lieu of the 24 that are required by code. I mean, it's a tight spot, and you can't count the spaces underneath the canopy as parking. So they're short on the parking, and they're asking for a waiver on that. Talked about the front setback, landscaping, street yard landscaping, given I'm sure you've all driven by there, there's not a lot of room up there. So they're asking for a waiver on that. Street yard landscaping. Staff can support that, I think, maybe given the scenario here. We would ask maybe that they provide additional landscaping around the site if it's possible, maybe like foundation plantings or maybe additional landscaping up along the railroad right away, since really people shouldn't be using that. Customers to the convenience store shouldn't be using that space. I was thinking maybe if there's some landscaping on that north side too, it might prevent people from parking in that rail right away area. Just some thoughts on that request there. Again, it's a waiver request that they're asking for. Bulk standards waiver from 70 to 80%. It's probably 80% now. So staff's all right, supports that one. Commercial design standards, that's the last waiver. They're asking for 5 total. These actually look pretty good. There's only a small amount of secondary materials that they're proposing, and it's on the canopy, on the ends of the canopy, the narrow and the gable end of the canopy. So staff can support that as well. Not a big deal. But like I said, there's still some difficulty with we don't know if the railroad right away, how much they're going to use that, and if they can't even have permission to use that. Issues with that. Now landscaping is going to be tight. They did come back a ways to kind of address some of our comments here. But it's better, but it's still tight highly developed with some challenges. So I guess summarize, if you forward it with the positive recommendation, I think our conditions kind of cover everything that is outstanding, or a lot of the things that are outstanding, unless you guys know some other things. Another thing I was thinking about, so since they reduced the number of pumps here, I don't think they need the base zoning can just stay CTC. I'm going to verify that right now, because I think CTC allows 2 pumps, and they got 2 pumps, so I don't think the rezone is even necessary here. You can just do a recommendation on the PMDP, and then keep the base zoning at CTC, because that's a 2 pump that allows 2 pumps. The request for CNS was, I believe, initially to go to. No, never mind. Ignore what I said. It's CNS is the 2 pumps. Never mind. Say the same. I get those 2 mixed up sometimes. It has to change anyway because it's CTC now. That's what it is. CTC, no pumps. CNS, 2 pumps. They were asking for 3 and a waiver. Now they're asking for 2, which you're allowed 2 by right in CNS. So disregard. Well, I was looking at that before we started talking about it. I'm like, I'll make sure that's right.
Yes, sir.
So there's that. There's one less waiver with that. They're within code with that. So like I said, they've made some changes. They got that parking out, got some of the activity out of the rail right away. Did reduce the number of pumps. Building's still pretty large for the site, and then it doesn't because of that. It's they have a real tough time with the parking on there. It's really short. You know, what, 10, 13 spots.
Thank you.
That and the railroad right away, I guess are the biggest difficulties that planning still sees with this. So I'll shut up now.
Perfect. Thank you. Public Works?
We're really in the same boat as planning. We're a little confused about why they're proposing paving the railroad right away. And then we had some comments we think we can resolve about left turns into the site.
Well, thank you. Questions, comments from the commission? Please.
Do we have representation here for this project?
Good afternoon. Trevor Teague with L.I. Smith and Associates, 475 Metroplex Drive in Nashville.
I think I just had a couple questions. One thing I remember pretty clear about last month is we all kind of shared a concern with the square footage of the building. So we're seeing the exact same square footage. We're seeing less parking spots. Do we have an answer for the railroad right away? Have you reached out to the railroad to see if you can use that?
So we have not heard back from the railroad right away. We haven't spoken to them in a few months. Whenever we first reached out to them, they were very responsive. And then all of a sudden, all our contacts just kind of quit replying. So no, we haven't heard back from those guys. As far as the square footage, brought that back up to the developer, and he basically said that he plans on making his money inside the building with the kitchen and the sales inside the building. And he wasn't really willing to budge. He said he couldn't make the numbers work unless he could build that square footage. And reducing the square footage, we would have, if we cut a third of the building off, we would only gain 3 to 4 parking stalls on the end of the building. So he just wasn't really wanting to budge there, but he was willing to give up the pump to allow better traffic flow, to ask for less of a setback variance.
Okay. Yeah, I think my primary concern is the size of the building in relation to the size of the lot. Amount of parking spots. You're in a really busy area. It's good for a gas station, but not good for one this size. So I think that's all I've got.
Further questions, comments from the commission? Please.
It mentions in here the trucks that would be coming to delivery trucks, and where they would park, and how that would work out for such a small area here.
Yeah.
And would they be delivering in the back? Is there a place in the back?
So there is currently, but once we push, so currently there is a road around the back. There is a pump that is almost in the right of way, not even the setback, almost in the right of way, the fuel canopy. And then the building itself, I believe, is inside the setback. So there is room currently, but as proposed, we do not have room to get a road around the back. I do show on one of the sheets a fuel truck maneuvering the site, delivering the fuel, and then getting back out of the property. But I did not show anything else other than standard vehicles.
And I just imagine that that's even difficult now, fuel truck getting in and out.
As it is currently,
Yes,
probably.
I don't know that that would change.
Right now, there's just a gravel road that goes behind the building.
So, two things. So we have 2 pumps there now currently, right? So
I went by there after the meeting.
Yeah.
And there are 3 pumps, 6 handles, I believe. So
I just want to know. So what is the, and just for my education, what is the difference on the CTT, the CNS with the 2 pumps we already have? What are we gaining Like, what are you looking to accomplish in the rezone? Go ahead.
The pumps aren't even allowed in CTC.
Right.
That's why. So bringing it to CNS brings those pumps into compliance, like conforming. They're
That's what I
allowed to have
thought.
2 pumps in
Yep.
CNS. And then that CNS and CTC are both commercial town center zoning classifications that match the land use there. So
Mhm.
tagging on that, this agenda says land use amendment. There's no land use amendment here. It's just PMDP and the region.
Right. That was my question. And then,
I don't know how that got on there.
So, and then my last thing was, we're looking to make our money on the square footage of the building, but then we're looking for a variance on the parking. So we're wanting more people to come in, but we're going to have fewer parking spaces.
Yeah, he feels like the number of parking we have shown is plenty for the amount of people he's expecting. And I just want to add about the square footage of the building. No matter how much we reduce the size of the building, I still don't think we're going to get more than 3 to 4 more parking spaces on this site.
It's a tough spot. I mean,
It is.
We know that.
There's a lot of challenges with
So.
this site.
All right. That's all I got.
I just got to reiterate the same thing. I mean, disappointment abounds. It's like, hey, you say something and then, hey, let's ignore it. That's kind of the way I feel. I mean, honestly, and looking at this here today, you're right. It did the math, put a scale on it, came in there, and how could you configure that? If we did shrink the building by a third over there, and you lose that right away or access over there into the rail, it will render those parking spaces unusable. Or if the railroad should come by any day, which is what they can do, and they can block your access to it totally, they will not be accessible should we shrink the building over there. Love the building. And so that's the reason why I'm so torn on it, because you got an opportunity to do something good and unique. You've got 4 restaurants sitting right next door to it over there. I mean, somebody needs to study Mount Juliet a little bit and what we got here. I'd say the vast majority of our convenience stores located in Mount Juliet, I dare to say it's at 50% that have commercial kitchens within them, don't even operate their commercial kitchens. And here we go with the full commercial blown kitchen. I think you're missing the boat, and I'm going to stand true to that one right there. You're going to see it in your cooler sales. You're going to see it in your regular convenience store sales. Got an opportunity to do something good, and you're just missing the people that know the market and understand it as well by fighting something because you think that you're going to make money on it. I think that's a wrong tack.
Sure. And I don't want you to think that your recommendation was ignored. We pursued that. We presented it. He basically just said he couldn't make that work.
Please.
In a way, the positive seems to outweigh the negative in some respect. If there's nothing else that's imminent in the future for that area, that's just,
At least improve the building.
yeah.
Commissioner Price?
I agree. I mean, some improvement to the building that would definitely be welcomed. But the question I look when you show your vehicle tracking, there's a note that says it's a 4x4 Ford Super Crew with an 8-foot box bed was used for the simulation. Is that a pickup truck or is that a fuel delivery truck?
There's a separate page with a fuel delivery truck. Yeah, so I chose the largest pedestrian vehicle we could show in maneuvering the site, and this other page has the fuel truck.
Go back in. Yeah, I see it. Thank you.
Any further questions, comments from the commission?
I mean, I like what you said, as far as improving the building. That's a very difficult site. And it would look great there. I just have a hard time with, I'm all about variances. I'm all about trying to make things work, but I don't understand if we're trying to drive traffic. We're thinking we're going to drive traffic to this brand new building, but we're okay with cutting the parking. Like that's a tight spot as it is. So like I said, I think it's great. I think it's great. We're trying to improve that, but I don't understand how we're going to ask for a 50% variance of parking. That's just my thoughts on that.
I'd like to add on, as it sits today, you may could say there's 3 parking spaces there right now.
Yeah, but the
Yeah.
store is what it is. We're
Sure.
gonna have we're gonna have a bigger store with the same amount of people coming to it. I don't know.
Got a random question, playing off that, because I hear you and understand it. Like I said, I love the building. What if we just didn't make it a gas station anymore?
Exactly.
What's wrong with that? You get your commercial kitchen, get your convenience store. It's a model that's proven up and down the road. Let's take it away. Let's get the parking. Let's make it the site that's conducive to the business that we want to run right there. Instead of trying to force that in there, let's get the parking right and let's get everything together.
Yeah.
So we're hearing your comments, hear ours. That's your easy solution.
Yeah.
We can modify your site plan right now and keep him rolling.
The fuel pumps are the issue. You got fuel trucks. We got that. Easy way to. I mean,
Can you get a nice commercial site?
No, the developer, that's kind of his thing, is convenience stores and gas.
Is your
convenience store
representative,
gas
is your
stations.
developer here in attendance tonight? Or do you have the ability to get in touch with them?
No, there wasn't his representative, but he ran into traffic and he'll probably show up by the time the meeting's
I'm
over.
willing to allow this to go to the back of the agenda if you'd like an opportunity to speak with him, and we'll table it for now, and then we'll bring it back up later. If you'd like to,
That's fine.
propose
I'm gonna
that
walk
question.
outside and see if I can get a phone call out.
very well. Any objection to us tabling this item on the agenda, moving it to the back and rehearing it at that point? See no objection, we're just going to table it for the time being. We'll bring it back up at the back of the agenda. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Yes, sir. All right, next item up on the agenda also falls underneath a PMDP and land use plan amendment. It is item 9B. It will be a recommendation item back to the Board of Commissioners. It is to review the land use plan amendment from thoroughfare commercial to mixed use for Elliott Reserve located at 12440 and 12582 Lebanon Road. As a reminder on this, this is the land use plan and the land use plan amendment only. That being said, John, anything from planning?
On the land use plan, well, it doesn't, the land use map for this area is thoroughfare commercial. They're asking for a CMU mixed use PUD. So the land use plan doesn't necessarily support it. I will say though that the thoroughfare commercial, or the thoroughfare, the part of the commercial thoroughfare Lebanon Road, as you've seen on the plans, I'm sure is entirely commercial on this particular development here. I think they got 51,000 square feet of commercial going in along those commercial lots. So really the land use amendment is for the town-owned component, so they can get the commercial mixed use zoning.
Thank you. Anything from Public Works in regards to the land use? Very well. Questions or comments from the commission? I'll make one brief on that since I was part of the land use plan when it was adopted, and I think changed during the time that we reviewed it, probably 8 to 12 years ago, if my memory serves me correctly. Because the whole corridor was discussed really extensively during the committee, and we had a committee for almost 6 months as we revised and amended the land use plan. There were parcels, i.e. such as this one, that the desire from that committee was commercial road frontage on Lebanon Road. But this parcel per se is such a deep parcel that I don't know that it was a direct intention of the committee to take thoroughfare commercial that deep into what is a now residential and was at the time of the adoption of the land use plan residential as well. So just a little side note as being a part of that committee many years ago. And I think that we noted it as that versus residential specifically because of the amount of road frontage on Lebanon Road. So that being said, we'll call for citizen comments in regards to this item. Any citizens wishing to make comment are welcome and encouraged to do so. Please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Seeing no citizen comments at this time, looking for a motion in regards to this item or a recommendation in regards to this item.
Question before we
Please.
do the motion. The blasting restriction, is that something we can put at this point or is that something that has to be
PMDP.
reserved?
Please.
It's in the conditions for the PMDP already, so.
Oh, okay.
I was thinking maybe on this, since this is a land use, do we want to put a condition on it that it reverts back to this
Sure.
state it's in right currently if this PMDP doesn't get approved?
Yes.
I think that'd be wise.
I'll make a positive recommendation for the land use amendment, and if this project does not pass, it will revert back to its pre-existing land use.
So subject to the approval of the PMDP. Very well.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? It is a positive recommendation. Next item up on our agenda falls underneath 9C. It is also a recommendation item back to the Board of Commissioners is to review the preliminary master development plan, planned unit development, including a rezone request from CG and CRC to CMU PUD for Elliott Reserve located at 12440 and 12582 Lebanon Road. John.
Good thing. We've got 22, a little over 22 acres over here. So they've got the minimum 20 acres for a mixed use PUD. It's in the city limits. We just talked about the land use scenario. Like I said, 51,000 square feet of commercial along Lebanon Road. It's shown on the plans as restaurant and retail. The residential component, it's 64 townhomes, which is about 5.6 units an acre. So you got 51,000 square feet of commercial and 64 townhomes, 2-car garage. Let me see what else is pertinent on this. Since it's PMDP, it's all kind of conceptual, but those are the numbers there. Parking, like I said, they calculated it. Worst case scenario, it looks good. Like I said, everything's got the residence has got two garage spaces, 2 driveway spaces. There's guest parking throughout. 7 waiver requests, but they're pretty standard for this type of development. What we see here, ornamental boundary fence in lieu of opaque fence, staff supports, 3.6 acres of disturbance on slopes exceeding 20%. We could support that. 20 foot of building separation. This is they're all sprinkled. So if they're not sprinkled, you got 30 feet between the townhome buildings. They got 20 here because they're sprinkled. This has come up numerous times. If they're sprinkled, we'll support the waiver request. Request to omit landscape buffer between the residential and the commercial areas is another one. And so since they got a commercial component and a residential component, typically you got a buffer between their buffer requirement. They're requesting to omit that. Omit masonry column between garage doors. That's one of our residential design guidelines. And then the last one is the facade material requests, which are fairly standard, 50% masonry, 50% secondary for the for the residential homes, so 50/50. The way it's worded, that would be all units 50/50. And that's all sides, I believe. And then for the commercial, they're requesting for 65% masonry and 35% secondary, which is fairly typical for our commercial developments in town. Staff doesn't really have we didn't see any real issues with any of those requests given the plan here, the whole thing as a whole. So we got a number of conditions here, but a lot of them are typical PUD conditions, but staff does recommend forwarding land use and PMDP and rezone with a positive recommendation with all those conditions, of course. And of course, with or without your support for any of those waivers. If you got any other questions, let me know.
Very well. Thank you. Public Works.
Public Works recommends a positive recommendation with the conditions we provided.
Very well. Thank you. Questions or comments from the commission?
I'll
Please.
just make a comment in regards to this, and there's one item on here as a condition, and this is regards to I just want to get on record with this project or anything going forward, that, I see that we put the 10% rental cap into, to make sure that we're, having more majority landowners. I would just caution us to go back and look at that and make sure that we're calculating that. Because what happens is when we move to a more balanced market, those properties that are, I know why it's there, and I know what we're trying to deter large organizations from eating up, certain houses. But you got to be careful that when you get into a more balanced market, that those properties may risk going into, for those properties are not as luxurious as they're not as marketable as others, and then those actually bring down the values in your neighborhood because they have to sell for significantly less due to the fact that an investor won't buy it or can't buy it. So I would just say, just as we go forward, maybe from a staff perspective or anything, before we throw on 10%, that we may look at the development and then basically tailor the rental cap based on math opposed to just saying 10%, because we see that a lot. 10%. So if it's 300 homes, it's 10%. If it's 64 homes, it's 10%. So I think we just need to take a better look and just be more calculative when we look at the rental cap going forward. That's all I got.
Please, Commissioner George.
One thing about the rental cap too, when I first got on the planning commission, I kind of was shocked that we were even doing a rental cap. To tell you the truth, I think that if push ever came to shove, I don't think you can legally cap the amount of rentals. I think that's an interesting legal challenge that if, we start dragging that out, you're going to have some property owners that are pretty upset. I think it's nice on paper, but I don't think it's trackable by any means as to say, okay, well, Johnny's house is for rent. Well, he took it off the market because his son wants to live there. And now, how do you count that 10%? So that's what I'll say about that. One question I did have for staff, though, are these private roads for the townhouses? Are they going to be public?
They're intended to be private.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I think it's a good project. It's got a 20-foot buffer towards the backside, and then when you get on the Whitley Way, it's a 50-foot undisturbed buffer. So I think that hits a couple comments that we had earlier. Mount Juliet's in an interesting situation. We're constantly developing, and we're going to see progress. And I think one thing that I've noticed in the more than 3/4 of my life that I've lived here is that progress is evident. So at one point, everywhere we live was progress. Where I live currently was progress about 5 years ago. So I think it's something to keep in mind that progress is going to keep happening, and it's just how we go about that progress. I've got a couple traffic concerns with it being on Lebanon Road. Ultimately, that's up to TDOT to allow them access to it. But if you're going to have access for 64 townhouses, I'd rather be on a 5-lane highway than a small 2-lane unimproved road. So. But overall, I think it's a good project. I think it's laid out right. And this is one of the first that I've seen that has a true commercial aspect. They're not really trying to get to that minimum percentage. They're kind of embracing the commercial aspect. Yeah.
Further questions, comments from the commission? Yeah, that's what I wanted to make. I'll follow up on Mr. Fisher's comments during the opening of our meeting. One of the things that he had expressed, John, if you guys can expand on that a little bit, he talked about the buffer and the buffer requirements, particularly on this neighborhood. Can you speak to that real quick?
Yes, and they are shown on these plans, so they're going to have to put in addition to whatever's on Nicholsville property there already, on this side of the property line, this developer is going to be installing a 20 foot wide D buffer, which is the densest, denser section of material. So, and that's standard for all of any development like this. It's based on what the zoning is next, adjacent zoning is. And in this case, this is the denser, even though it might not be overall, it's the multifamily one, or this is the a multifamily development, with the townhomes. So it's a more dense classification than what's around it. So they would be required to put in a landscape buffer on their property. And they've got it on there.
And how many feet is that?
20 feet wide
So if they,
with a fence.
if they don't touch that area, that qualify, if it is wooded, fully wooded, does that qualify for their buffer? If they don't get into it, but install a fence through it? I guess
Only-
maintaining large trees and,
If they were to inventory them and they met the minimum requirement of the ordinance, they could do that. I'm not sure
if it has dense
Yeah.
vegetation currently on
we
it.
might have a condition in here that says preserve as many existing trees, delineate tree protection areas on subsequent submittals. So it would behoove them to do it, I guess, if it makes sense. But if not, then they just have to install a new, whatever plantings are required. But they can, if there's stuff back there that's usable, then absolutely. We'd prefer that actually, because it's mature.
Sure. And do we know what the proposed rear setbacks are on these?
This is, so you treat it like an RM8, I guess. Or I guess it's all CMU. It'll be less than the 20 feet, or it'll be 20 feet. Let me look real quick. Don't get a lot of. I believe that buffer is going to take it all up, I would imagine. 20,
But
20
they're set back on their property line, so each
20 feet.
individual lot is 20 feet.
Yeah,
So you're
and-
basically 40 feet.
Yeah.
Because they can't build in the buffer's not technically their property.
Right. The buffer can go in the setback though, so it's
Yeah.
not 40 feet.
Okay. I guess one more was another one of the initial comments. Can you help us explain what you guys look at on drainage issues, these ponds and whatnot? What goes into that? Does it help, hurt? I guess kind of explain that process a little bit for some of them that express concern over the drainage.
You picked a heck of a meeting to have Shane here.
And you're my road expert.
Sure am. The way I understand it is, as the plan is conceptual and likely to change as we interact with the development, the drainage plan does not get finalized until construction plan. Okay.
Right.
At that time, they'll be held to that drainage standard. What they're currently showing is very typical with wet ponds with aeration per our code, but specific drainage issues have not been identified and resolved yet.
Well,
Given the topography there, I'd imagine the water would go down towards Lebanon Road, right?
Yes.
yeah,
If
so
there
it'll
was
be
anything that would be a
significant,
problem, it would be towards Lebanon Road.
significant ponds to
Yeah.
stop and control that. Especially when you're putting a commercial building at the front of it right there, and that's the bottom of the slope or the topo for that. With that being said, I'm sorry, please.
Sorry.
No, I just want to make a couple of comments because we've seen several of these type developments here recently. I just highlighted a couple of things on here. Commercial percentage of this PUD exceeds a minimum of 25%. Normally, we're borderline on that, or we're being requested to give a variance because it doesn't meet that. As well, parking. I've harped on it up here on several of the townhome projects that we have encountered as well. Parking exceeds requirement again, which is something that we are not seeing a whole lot of, which I'm very pleased to see something come in that actually meets our parking, actually exceeds our parking requirements. As you could tell, just in the discussion of the convenience store that came up previously, parking requirements are fairly stringent within the city as well. I know that and I just throw this in here so it's of record because I support it as well. The variances, requested variances on facade, which would fall both underneath 5-104.4, 61037. Just the statement of no vinyl, no canvas awnings when it comes to the commercial out there as well. Don't feel like this would be the type development, but I like to include that comment in anything that we're doing. As well, we have previously on these tied the commercial and the residential together in regards to the CO. No request from staff on this particular project to tie COs to the development of the commercial to make sure the commercial does develop.
We talked about this a little bit, but we weren't really, Jill and I didn't really come to since it's only 64 units.
Yeah. Sure.
Didn't really know if it was, and also on their development schedule, they have, it might not be correct. They might have to verify, but phase one vertical commercial, that is begun just after phase one townhome construction. And that is shown as starting before any townhome delivery in their schedule already. So we just left it alone.
Sure. Okay, perfect. And I guess one more, but I'll hold off for when we do ask for the representation for this project. But I know it's in your staff's report 3 or 4 times that I can count, and that is the identification of the retaining walls, because I could not find them either. So definitely want to see where those are and whatnot. And staff's got the supporting comments, but I'd just like to know where they are.
There'll be a lot of them, I'd imagine.
Any additional questions, comments? Let's go ahead and call for representation of the project. Name and address for the record.
I'm guessing everything.
Evening again, Jake Porter, CSDG 2305 Klein Avenue, Nashville, Tennessee. With the engineers in the project. Also here, we have an owner, developer, the architect. So any questions that anyone has, by all means, please fire away. We'll be more than welcome to answer those at the best of our abilities. And also like to thank staff. Again, we've gone through a lot of iterations on this with some studies and the layout itself and a lot of grading and just appreciate all the help that they've provided and all the opportunity for insight and getting the good plan on paper to present to you all tonight. So,
retaining walls.
Retaining walls on lot 7 in the front of the parking lot. Let me flip to my
6 and 7.
So if you look at lot 6 and 7 on the
Right there.
southwest corner there on sheet 2 C2.00, retaining wall between the parking lot and the state right of way, the Highway 70, and there's also a retaining wall shown preliminarily on the northern edge on the northern edge of the residential driveway.
Jake, I was looking at your topo as you come in there.
Yes, sir.
Do you think there's any way to get a walking path from the townhomes down there? Or just, I mean, is it going to really be sidewalk? Because it looks like it's just.
We have sidewalk shown on the private drive currently, but the connection between the townhomes directly down that hill on between lots 4 and 5 would be, we've calculated it's approximately 750 foot of ramp. Just switchbacks back and forth, and
yeah,
it's a lot of grade change.
Yeah. Questions, comments from the commission? Very well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Let's go ahead and open up for citizen comments. Anyone wishing to make comment at this time is welcome and encouraged to do so. Please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. I'm sorry. You only get one chance.
Oh, we only get one?
Only
Okay.
one. I'm sorry.
All right, I think we got another one.
It's, I was trying to, we took those, trying to make sure that we did the best we could to address the ones we heard early on that.
Am I able to ask for clarification on something? Based on something that was said by Preston?
Only one time to speak, but you're welcome to reach out to staff and staff would be happy to answer that question for you.
Hey, good evening. Keith Hines. I'm at 437 Whitley Way.
Thank
Just a clarification was, I think there was a remark made around the 50-foot buffer on Whitley Way. Just want to clarify that. Is it all the way down Whitley Way, the 50-foot buffer?
So it looks like it's going to hit the back of Whitley Way. And when you turn the corner, coming on the back, because it's like a box, when you come around the box, headed towards Nicholsville, it drops down to a 20-foot. So essentially where the detention pond's going to be is where that 50-foot
Okay.
buffer is.
All right. It's only on the end and the 20-foot. It's 20-foot the rest of the way down
Mhm.
Whitley Way.
Jake,
Okay.
would you mind showing him where he just said on that 50-foot,
Yeah.
just so he can see it on the plan, what we're seeing? Sorry, he was sitting right there with the plan in his hand, so.
That's way there. This is 50 across here. This will be 20 on this side.
This is all 50.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Does that help you some?
Yep. Thank you.
Very well, thank you. Please.
Alex Brown, 3023 Nicholsville Lane. I just would like some clarification on the existing tree line behind Nicholsville Lane going towards Lebanon Road to see if that is, there's plans to have that tree line stay, or is that tree line going to be removed? It's there. I'm not taking any tree line down.
Very well.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Very well. For the record, because that was off microphone, representation stated that that tree line is staying. Please, name and address for the record.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Jorge Buzinski, 591 Montrose Drive, Nicholsville. Project Manager, Engineering and Construction for industrial sites. My question is environmental studies and also how will you address specifically any drainage issues? If you look at it, that site goes down to the south, basically on Montrose Drive, and there is quite a slope in there. When there is copious rains, we get a lot of inundation in that area. So I mean, we'd like to know what you're planning to do, because that's going to affect us very much. That's a drainage issue, most of all. So that's why I'm asking.
Very well.
It would be nice to have specifics on that. Okay, so we haven't heard anything about it.
John, would you guys like to speak about that, or should we ask representation to explain their ponds and retention detention?
It's really more of a site plan thing. We're kind of at the zoning level here.
Okay.
I'm not the best resource to ask about that. I think.
So what John is explaining, right now we're at preliminary master development plan. Should this plan be approved by the Board of Commissioners, because it's just a recommendation item by us tonight? So we're only doing a recommendation. Ultimately, that does have to go through 2 readings at the Board of Commissioners, where it can either be declined or it can be approved there. Should it be approved, then they do come back to us for a site plan.
Okay.
When they come back for us at the site plan and FMDP at the same time, at that point in time, all the studies, all the compliance and everything with the drainage and everything is back in, and staff will have an opportunity to review that. And so at that time, should be able to better explain that. Am I saying that properly? Is that right? Please.
Correct me if I'm wrong, sure, but I believe our regs require that whatever they do here, whatever water is coming off this site, it'll be less than what's now. I mean, it'll be contained and
Correct.
controlled. It should be better. Any problems you have should actually be made better by, if I'm speaking incorrectly, but that's my understanding of it, is that like the code requires that like it would be an improvement because the water is going to be contained. I'm probably not the best to explain this, but yeah.
Shorty, can you better explain that a little bit? Let me go ahead and I can bring this gentleman up. He is
Okay.
with Planning Public Works and our resident kind of expert on that real quick to help you with that question a little bit.
Hopefully, we could have some specifics later on. Okay.
Yes, please. And he'll be able to explain to you.
We will work with the engineer on the drainage during construction plans. But what John was saying is they have to detain all the water that's on their site presently. They have to keep it on there and reduce how it goes out.
Okay, very well. And you guys see and review that with representation prior, should it pass PMDP, prior to being presented a site plan and FMDP at this level.
Right.
Very
Joe
well.
loves this.
So conceptual right now and final when we see it at final master development plan.
Yes, sir.
Very well.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening. Vince Chelstrom is my name at 429 Whitley Way. I'm kind of a visual person. I got a fence line, and I got a 20-foot buffer. Where does this 50-foot buffer start? In the back of my property.
Starts on these folks' property, is that right, John?
I'm not sure what the buffer width on the Nicholsville properties are. I'm probably 20 feet. And then they're going to have a 20-foot wide buffer on this property. So in actuality, once this is completed, you're going to have a 40-foot section of buffer between this development and Nicholsville yards and around here. If that, you know, I don't know about 50 feet. I don't know where that came from, but
Yeah.
I'm on Whitley.
on
I'm
that
on the
one.
back
So
side.
you're just asking for Kelsey Glen, is that right? Or not Kelsey Glen, what's the name of the subdivision? Nicholsville, sorry. Yeah, Nicholsville, sorry, we had that in my mind. If you would like to know what your buffer is, I'd encourage you to reach out to staff, our planning coordinator, Ms. Johnson. We're going to email her or come to the planning office and they can explain to you what yours would be for your specific neighborhood.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay. Thank you.
In that particular area, though, it will be quite wide. There is a 50-foot. I thought you were talking about up around the corner. There is a 50-foot buffer on their property that they'll have to install there.
Okay.
That's correct. So that would be on their property, and then whatever is on yours will back up to it. So
Okay.
there's going to be a wide section of vegetation in between the two.
Yeah, it should be pretty big.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Any additional citizen comments at this time? See no additional citizen comments at this time. Be asking for a recommendation in regards to this item on our agenda. Anyone wish to make a recommendation? Please. Is that a motion for a positive recommendation?
Yes.
Very well. Subject to staff comments. Very well.
Precisely.
That's a, please. Granting of the
And the
waivers. Good with the
waivers,
waivers. Very well. Yep. So, please.
Did you want to add the condition, no vinyl, no cloth
I know
awnings?
it's covered in our ordinance.
Okay, all right, good. I
Yeah,
agree.
I like to say it. That's a motion and a second. All those in favor signify for a positive. That's a motion and a second for a positive recommendation. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? That is a positive recommendation. Before moving to item 11A, I'd like to see if representation has made its way back in for 9A for the gas station. Very well. We'll give just a moment. We'll let some of the traffic come out and then get going. The technicalities in it. Not all the technicalities in it. Retention is forever. Detention is temporary. That's a good way to think
Well,
of
that's
that.
why that's why they were concerned about that
That's
water
the
falling
story
off.
on the back. So then she won't be doing
And
that.
hopefully, yeah.
That's a good way to. That's nice. All right. With that being said, our next item up on our agenda, which was temporarily adjourned, is item 9A. It is a recommendation item back to the Board of Commissioners to review the preliminary master development plan, planned unit development, including a rezone from CTC to CNS PUD for the gas station convenience store located at 2190 North Mount Juliet Road. We'll turn it over to representation just because we're hearing it again. Name and address for the record.
Trevor Tigg with L.I. Smith and Associates, 375 Metroplex Drive, Nashville. So he's not going to make it, but I did speak to the owner on the phone. He says that he's not willing to completely forfeit pumps. As far as reducing it, by a third, he says he's going to have to do some calculations, see if it's worth his return on investment to reduce it by that much. If it is worth it, we'll be back next month. Assuming this gets denied, we'll be back next month. If not, he's looking at maybe remodeling or painting or something. I would like to know, is there any harm in putting it to a vote versus deferring it?
There's not, no. I mean, no, if it's a recommendation item, so if it is a negative recommendation, it still moves forward. Yeah, you still go to the Board of Commissioners ultimately to make the final decision, because this is not decided at Planning Commission. This official vote on whether and how you proceed would be conducted within the BOC meeting after 1 or 2 readings in order for its approval.
Okay.
So yes, sir, even if we gave it a negative recommendation, you would still move forward to the Board of Commissioners.
If it gets a negative recommendation, could we come back and make another submittal if we change something
Let me ask
before the Board of Commission?
Ms. Johnson, I think that technically, even if we gave it a negative recommendation today and they came to terms, they removed the gas pumps, the BOC would just see it with the removal of the gas pumps. You would not have any necessity to come back here. So no, you would not have. So should that be your desire at the end? You could change that prior to BOC. He could also defer from the BOC meeting in order to work out anything, and still he doesn't have to be at the immediate next. Is that
Right. He could, or he could take his chances at the BOC level because again, it's 2 readings, gives him that opportunity, and it may be something that you can discuss at the BOC level and make an opportunity to offer up any changes at first reading and then make those changes prior to second reading. We have seen that happen as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I appreciate everyone's time. I know we all want to see it
Thank you.
develop. Hopefully we can work something out.
I know you've worked hard, and I'm sure that staff has expressed
been
your
great
hard
to work
work as
with.
well. So
Yeah.
we
I'll add
appreciate
that.
you.
Staff's been great.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Any questions, comments from the commission? Seeing none, let's call for citizen comments in regards to this item. Any citizens wishing to make comment, welcome and encouraged to do so. Microphone, name and address for the record. Seeing no citizen comments at this time, looking for a recommendation in regards to this item on our agenda.
I'll make a negative recommendation.
That's a motion and a second for a negative recommendation. All those in favor, signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? That is a negative recommendation. All right. Next item up on our agenda is item 11A. It is to vote to elect the Planning Commission chairperson and vice chairperson. With that being said, we will open the floor for the nominations of the chairperson first, and then nominations for the vice chairperson second. So with that being said, we'll open nominations for the chairperson for the Mount Juliet Municipal and Regional Planning Commission meeting. Commissioner Rast.
Prior to nomination, are you willing to serve again if so elected?
Yes.
I got to check. We've had conversations.
I know.
I'd like to nominate Luke Winchester for chairperson.
Thank you. Any other nominations? This time we'll close nominations and open a vote. All those in favor for Luke Winchester be the chairperson of the Planning Commission, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Against? Reluctant? No. Very well. Thank you, guys. I'm always honored to be here. You've heard it many, many times. Sometimes I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse, but it is a lot of satisfaction, especially when you've been here a long time and you get an opportunity to make a difference, whether or not in this seat or any seats that everybody sits in up here. It's a true blessing to be involved in your community in this form and fashion. So thank you all. With that being said, I will open the now move on to the vice chairperson, at which time I would like to open the floor for nominations for vice chairperson.
Nominate David Rath.
Want to stay?
Sure. I'll second that.
Yeah. Any further nominations? That being said, we'll cease nominations this time, at which time I'm looking for a vote for Commissioner David Rast to be the vice chairperson of the Mount Juliet Planning Commission. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? Acceptance speech?
When's the inaugural party?
Yeah. Inauguration
It's
party.
going to be an after party. We're going to throw it
I'll
off.
say that my campaign funds were deficient, and so therefore I got some Coca-Cola.
No, just glad to serve and still learning. I mean, it's been a couple of years now, and I'm learning every meeting we go to. So glad to be a part of it.
Yes, sir. That being said, looking for a motion to adjourn. Motion, second. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raise your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? We are adjourned.